like to build things. And a lot of the people from Palantir, from Adipar, have gone on to build lots of other companies. And so I've been coaching. I started coaching a lot of them.
Palantir's changed the world of defense forever. Check out this amazing insight.
So just like with PayPal, where we had $16 billion companies come out of it after eBay bought us, Palantir's now had over 100 successful companies come out of it that people have started over the last couple decades. And so I ended up saying it makes sense to actually build an investment firm. My mentors told me I basically was doing an investment firm, didn't have enough money or enough people. So the last 12 years we put together a pretty big firm in the venture capital space. We build and launch companies. We back companies early, and I mean it's nice in venture if you don't raise big funds, they become very, very oversubscribed. So I'm not here to raise money for 8VC, but it's a fun area. And I'll tell you, since you're asking about there's really two areas that we're probably really well known for the last few years. One of them is defense. We've started multiple new defense companies, including nearby here. We actually backed early Anduril with Palmer Luckey and some of my ex-Palantir colleagues. And they're become a new defense prime, which is really cool. If you haven't checked it out online, there's amazing videos of the things they're doing. And then the other two, one of them, drone swarms have become a huge problem. It's just really hard to stop. We're spending $2 billion missiles to shoot down cheap little drones with bombs coming at our troops, and they'll swarm 100 at once. So we figured out how to use new technology to send out microwave radiation really, really far from pretty small device to shoot down swarms of drones. And we're now deployed live. It turns out the AI chips can get the power to hit the gallium nitride emitter all at once, turn them off. So we built that, and we have another company building thousands of ships for the U.S. Navy, smaller ships, because it turns out China has 200 times our shipbuilding capacity, which is frankly a huge crisis. It used to be in World War II, Germans had better ships than we did, but every time we lose a ship, you'd build 3 more because we have the best building capacity. America now, with literally 200 times the shipbuilding capacity in China, very scary for our ability to deter them. So we're figuring out how to take our best and brightest. Frankly, Elon Musk, who's a good friend, has really revitalized advanced manufacturing in America. We're taking some of that talent, putting it into military areas as well to make sure we stay ahead of the bad guys. So we're doing a lot in defense. And then the one other area I'll mention is what we call AI services. And so there's a huge part of our economy right now that we've shown we can actually double or triple the productivity using AI. And so this is stuff like healthcare billing, logistics billing, back office processes. In the alts world, it's like how do you manage and subscribe and deal with all the alts paperwork and stuff. There's just lots of these areas that are going to just be completely changed. And so we think there's multi-trillion-dollar opportunities in those areas and building a lot of companies.
Isn't this exactly the kind of innovation that puts Palantir ahead of the curve? The focus on combining AI and advanced manufacturing with defense highlights how they're solving real-world challenges that other companies shy away from. This isn't just about profit. It's about shaping the future of global security and productivity.
They're succeeding in them.
I want to stay with defense a little bit because you're involved in so many really interesting areas. I first heard of Palmer Luckey with the Oculus, which you were an early investor in, before I think Facebook ended up buying that.
Yeah, Facebook bought it for over $2 billion just a few years in. He made him a billionaire at like 22 or something, which will go to your head pretty fast.
And then not too long ago, maybe it was Wired Magazine did a profile on really interesting things that Palmer is doing with drone technology and defense technology. Tell us a little bit about what's going on in that space.
Yeah, so basically Palantir and SpaceX were the first 2 companies to break in and effectively become some form of defense prime, the first new ones in 30 years. Because you had all these old primes, they all consolidated after the Cold War ended in the 90s, and they basically had a total lock on DC. And Palantir, it took us a long time, a lot of stubbornness to break in. And then some points we had to sue the U.S. government because they were doing crazy things, and we won. SpaceX similarly had to sue the U.S. government because they just discriminate against new things, right? And obviously SpaceX, good thing they won because they're obviously 100 times better than the alternative. We're watching them bail out Boeing again right now with those astronauts. Frankly, after doing Palantir, I said this defense stuff is just really stressful. It's really hard to break into. I'm going to do Adipar instead. Turns out you guys are stressful too, but I'm like, I've done enough defense. And we started being pretty bullish on things going on between China and the U.S. and very naively thought the world's just going to go in a kind of more peaceful, more prosperous direction. And we saw this guy, Xi Jinping, come in. And I have friends with a lot of the guys who built these companies in China. A lot of them believe in free markets, read Milton Friedman, share a lot of our values. These are not, just because they're Chinese, they're not bad people. They're not CCP themselves. You saw Xi Jinping start cracking down on these guys. A lot of them disappeared. I've had multiple friends who you knew really well who died in their sleep in their 40s, after being tech billionaires. And we saw him also making a lot of our friends force their top engineers to work on defense projects. Obviously, we don't do that in the US, but this became very concerning because China does have really top talent, and they were forcing them to build new things in defense hardware. Meanwhile, in the US, those old companies that consolidated in the 90s, they were hiring basically none of our smartest friends. So this is a crisis. You have China building really new advanced defense things. You have US spending lots of money very wastefully without top talent. And we said, wow, we need to get back in and fix this. So Palmer, with 3 of my old Palantir guys, after selling Oculus to Facebook, and they kicked him out of Facebook because he did some politics they didn't like. He's on the right. But so he and these guys started this new company nearby here, and it's become the most important new defense prime in hardware. They have all sorts of products. The one you should check out online is called the Roadrunner. If you've ever seen Elon's rockets that kind of go up and land themselves, he has the same thing for advanced missiles. And so these missiles come in this box, and it'll go up and it'll track and destroy the bad guys. But if you don't use it, if it doesn't explode, it'll come back and it'll land and it'll wait to be used again. And so not only is it like the 12th the cost of a Patriot missile, it also could be reused. We're actually putting, remember that Epirus company that shoots things down with microwave radiation? We're going to put that on it. So you can imagine a swarm of these going, flying, shooting that, turning things off, and coming back and landing to use it again. And modern warfare is going to be swarms of autonomous small vessels, small drones, like all these things. And we can't afford to do what we've been doing with the defense primes, which is to build things that are way too expensive, kind of last generation's technology, and you're going to run out of them against the swarms our adversaries are going to have. So we're really trying to make sure we stay ahead of them.
The concept of reusable missile systems, like the Roadrunner, represents a monumental shift in defense technology. By combining cost efficiency with state-of-the-art capabilities, this approach addresses the inefficiencies of legacy systems while ensuring scalability against threats like drone swarms. This isn't just an upgrade, it's a complete rethink of how modern defense should operate.
So I want to combine 2 things you mentioned, the new technologies, swarming, and the massive overcapacity to build ships of China versus the US. What have we learned from the Russian invasion of Ukraine and how the Ukrainians are defending themselves with technology? How can that be applied towards any potential invasion of Taiwan by China?
Yeah, so Palantir and Anduril, Palmer's company, are very active in Ukraine, doing a lot of important things there. We've learned it's about drone swarms. We learned it's about cost. So, for example, the U.S. makes these anti-radiation missiles that are $3 million each. We sold 300 of them to Poland, I think, a few months ago for $1 billion. And these missiles are able to find jammers and take them out. Russia's figured out how to build these jammers. And these jammers, by the way, they stop artillery from targeting. They really are dominant on the battlefield. So it's electronic warfare. They figured out how to build them like $20,000, $30,000. You can't win a war with $3 million things being used to take out $30,000 things. You're just going to run out of, no matter how rich you are, you're going to run out of money on the battlefield. So war is like an engineering thing where it's about scarcity, right? And so we've learned you have to build cheaper, smarter, distributed systems. And, the electronic warfare stuff's fascinating. Listen, there's a lot of smart people who are against us going into Russia. Like, well, we probably should be careful with nuclear power. So I'm not going to say this is good or not, but it's interesting. Ukraine was able to basically create like these electronic warfare bubbles by figuring out how to jam sensors in different ways and kind of create a protection bubble around their forces that then did the major incursion. And it was all about electronic warfare and turning on and off these sensors, along with like how to manipulate swarms. And so the battlefield is totally changing versus how we would do these things 20 years ago. And we're trying to make sure we build companies here and technologies here in response to this and go fast on it.
When Russia's electronic warfare tactics are so effective, how do we ensure our defense strategy isn't left behind? The war in Ukraine shows that modern conflicts are less about sheer firepower and more about innovative, affordable technologies. Can we implement these strategies effectively to defend Taiwan if China decides to escalate? The cost-effective, swarm-based tactics are key, but are we ready to scale them fast enough?
So all of these giant ships that China's building, is it likely or possible that there will be a small autonomous swarm of vessels that counterbalance that?
Well, China's pretty smart, so I think they're mostly building submarines, which are difficult. But yes, so Saronic is the latest company we helped start. It's run by a former Navy SEAL of 11 years in Austin, Texas. A lot of the admirals of the fleet are very involved. And what we're doing is we're even next year in Austin, we're gonna have 600 ships we build that are 24 feet, 14 feet, and 6 feet. These are weaponized autonomous vessels. We're teaching the Navy how to use AI to have them coordinate. So what we showed them, and they agree, is we can basically triple the battle effectiveness of our fleet by complementing all the big ships of the line with about 30 smaller weaponized vessels that swarm and coordinate and help in different ways. It's kind of fun. It's like a little video game sort of thing. I actually have a lot of LA video game talent helping us map it out and practice battles and stuff. But no, I mean, yes, we have to do lots of small ships if we want to stay ahead of them. And unfortunately, our DoD is not as competent as it used to be, but our private companies are the best in the world. So we're going to keep getting involved, same as private companies did in World War II, and make sure we stay ahead of the bad guys.
This shift towards smaller, autonomous vessels could revolutionize naval strategy. The idea of complementing large ships with coordinated swarms of weaponized drones promises a significant boost in battlefield efficiency, showcasing how private companies are driving critical innovation in defense.
So let's shift gears. I want to talk about OpenGov, which is another project of yours. You provide software for over 2,000 municipalities and state agencies. What was that adoption practice like? How long did that take?
Well, we sold OpenGov earlier this year for $1.8 billion to Cox. And, originally my friends and I, we were wondering why California was taxing us so much and where they were spending the money. This is about 13, 14 years ago. And so I got about 20 Stanford students in a nonprofit at first, and we tried to just put everything online. It was great. I didn't have my name on it, so all these students kept getting attacked by the unions because they really don't like it when you show them spending lots of money in government departments. It basically showed that California had a bunch of departments that were dominated by these special interests that were spending about 50 to 60% more than this was 13 years ago, than you'd imagine by the model, right? Of course, it's corrupt. And all these cities started emailing us saying, oh, this is really cool. Show us for our spending. Are we doing something good or not? And we said, sure, send us the data. And the cities would say, well, how do we send the data over? And we looked into it, and there's tens of thousands of municipalities in the US, and they mostly don't have access to their own information. They have to pay their IT consultants huge amounts of money to do a report. They couldn't even see what they're spending versus the city next door for similar services. And so we decided to build this thing called OpenGov, and we built a way for them to see all their data. And then we realized governments don't like paying for new things. They only can pay for the things they're already doing. So we built a bunch of software for them to run all their budgeting and their transparency and their processes and asset management. And it's just built a big GovTech company.
The evolution of OpenGov from a nonprofit experiment to a billion-dollar company underscores the pressing need for modernization in government operations. It's a powerful example of how private sector tools can address long-standing public inefficiencies.
So I'm kind of fascinated how you've bounced across sectors. Big data, defense, government, healthcare, finance, even now education. How do you approach learning a space that you haven't been in before?
Well, for building these companies and for succeeding as an investor in venture, there's really two things that matter the most. One is the very top technology talent and technology cultures. So cultures of places like Opto, where we're iterating with you, it's because we have these really amazing, talented people who are building really quickly and who are speaking to people and getting feedback with them. And then the other thing we're looking for is where is a gap in the world? Where is something, here's where it could be, and here's where it is now. So again, go back to alts and think about that. It's very clear there's a gap. The incentives are misaligned for how people are accessing alts. The platforms are wasting a lot of their time, and it's not easy for them to see what the best things are and to really quickly iterate and do their job for their clients. And so it's very obvious there's a gap there. And so what you do is you have a hypothesis. You get a really great tech culture where the people at Opto own a bunch of the company themselves, are really talented people who've had wins before, know how to build and iterate in tech. They're from Adapar, they're from other places. And then you build and you iterate with clients, because no matter how smart we think we are, we're going to come to you and show it to you. There's going to be things that are wrong. There's going to be things that are not useful for you. But because you have a great tech culture, you can iterate very quickly and learn. And so the company's now been around for a few years. It's now at the point where people are starting to really love it because they've been doing it based on feedback. So when you approach a new space, it's not about being an expert in this space. It's about having a really amazing culture that talks to the experts and learns from them and builds with them over time.
This approach flips the conventional wisdom. Instead of being an expert in a space, success hinges on fostering a culture of innovation, iteration, and collaboration with those who are experts. It's a powerful reminder that adaptability and speed often outweigh prior knowledge in industries driven by technology and rapid change.